Bobby here, and today we'll be taking a look at the Mezco King Kong of Skull Island figure. Now, this is probably not one of my usual figures I get, but I am a big fan of the Giant Monster series. It's like Godzilla, King Kong, Jurassic Park. Those kind of films are the kind that float my boat a little bit. I really enjoyed looking at this figure online, mainly because I've always wanted a King Kong figure to go along with my Godzillas. And there were some that I could have from I believe they were from Playmates, the old 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong figures. But, my figure collection got a little bit more higher standard, I guess you could say, with the NECA Godzilla figures I've been collecting over the years. I wanted a King Kong figure to represent that kind of figure, a higher end King Kong figure. Now, there is a Kong figure I did end up getting before this guy was even discussed about being made. That is still part of the Playmates Peter Jackson Kongs, but it was a little bit more articulated, which I will be showing off against this guy. But in the end, this one looked so much better. And I will be comparing some NECA Godzillas that I think work with this guy. There's a few like the 90s Godzilla or Shin or the 2014 Godzilla that I don't necessarily believe work well with this guy, mainly because of the head size. And Shin Godzilla is just not one of my favorite designs of Godzilla, so I don't really care to pose him with Kong. Let's take a look at the box. So, King Kong of Skull Island, logo right there. At the top, King Kong of Skull Island. On the side, you get this cool looking King Kong circular logo that says King Kong of Skull Island. On the back, you get a promotional shot of Kong on the Empire State Building and shot off by planes, and you get what you're gonna get in with the figure. The Kong, you get the hand arrow, you get the alternate screaming head, his two fisted hands, his two open hands, his holding hand, and his two what would you call those? The two shackles. And it does have real chains connected to it, so that's even cooler. Kong of Skull Island, King Kong of Skull Island, not Kong of Skull Island, King Kong. Okay, and same thing on this side that was on the other side. Let's get a better look at that. And on the bottom, just some legal stuff. Gotta be 17 and up to get this guy. Sorry, kids. So now we can get this guy open. But before we do, alright, getting this guy out of the box. This guy also has this cool little background piece that you can display with him if you so like. It really looks great. Just green trees. It just looks amazing. Looks straight out of the Peter Jackson movie, to be honest. Or Kong Skull Island, or any King Kong movie, for that matter. It looks like that kind of surrounding, but it more reminds me of the Peter Jackson movie, to be honest. The way the colors look. But enough of that. Let's get into the main guy himself. It's a little weird. What I mean by that is it's definitely an artistic choice design. It's definitely a unique design. I would say that's mainly in the head. The body, I don't know, it looks okay, but the head, I would say, looks maybe a little big on it, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I believe this is based off of a comic book or a novel or a book. I'm not sure. I think it's based off of a book. I don't think it's a comic book or a graphic novel. I think it's just a regular book that this is based off of. I might be wrong. If it's based off of that design, I would say it's a comic book, but I'm not sure. But if it is based off of a comic book, I would definitely love to read it. Just because I don't really read comic books that much anymore. But definitely would like to read this book because this guy looks awesome. His sculpt is definitely great. It was so great because when I saw the promotional pictures and saw pictures and videos over in, I think, Comic-Con and Toy Fair when they showed this guy off, I didn't know he had elbow and knee articulation. I didn't. Head, torso, hands, shoulders, hips, and feet. That's all I thought. I didn't think he was going to have any movement in the elbows or the knees. And I'd say the sculpt's the one that maybe have hid that, because the figure was mostly posed like this. So it was so hard to tell, but I still I pre-ordered it believing that these didn't move. So when I found out they did, I loved this figure even more. It's a little weird, I guess. Now you can have this guy in, a couple of the classic King Kong poses, like, oh, I'm gonna rip a T-Rex's jaws open kind of pose with his open wide hands. You can have him posed with his more Peter Jackson realistic gorilla pose where he's on all fours. It takes a second to pose him because mine's a little bit tight in the joints. So I can't, and it's not a complaint. I actually like figures that have a little bit of tightness to them because I prefer figures that have more of a tight joint than a loose joint. If it's got a loose joint, I pretty much disown it because I just don't like loose joints. If a figure can hold a pose, then those are probably one of my favorites. If a figure starts losing that ability, then it's no longer, something I like. That's probably one of the reasons why I need to get a new NECA Part 3 Jason, because his legs have gotten so loose from standing on a shelf for so long that it's kind of starting to, his legs are so loose that he keeps falling off his stand. So that's just, a little bit of info I like to give. But yes, you could get him on all fours. One minor complaint. With the arm articulation, you can't have him in his classic chest speeding pose. You can't have that pose. You can maybe have like a mid pose, kinda, in that way, but it's just, you can't have him looking like he's pounding his chest after a big victory over a dinosaur. And that kind of sucks. Because his arm only goes into his chest like that. Alright? So maybe, it's just, you can't do it. And that's one of the things I do complain about this figure. That's something I would have liked to have done. Now granted, if it didn't have any elbow articulation, it definitely would have been possible then. But even with the articulation, it still can't do it. And I think that's the only complaint I can give this guy is I wish I could give him that pose, because that's one of the most iconic poses for King Kong, is him beating on his chest. But, other than that, this is still a good figure. But, I don't know. It is a little disappointing. Before we get into the accessories, I do want to get into articulation first. Just to change it up a little bit. So, let's roll the tape. Another note before I get into articulation. This guy might fall over from time to time because he is very heavy in the top area. So, just keep in mind, when you're going to put this guy on a shelf, he's a little top heavy. Not that he won't ever stand, but in some poses you have him in, he will fall over. See, you gotta angle his feet right. It's a little bit of, it's not an issue, it's a warning. He's a little top heavy. But most of the time he's gonna fall back, not forward, so you should be good. Articulation is, I've seen a lot of people having problems with the head. pulsing the head easily coming off. And it is a little easy, but I've been trying to, when I'm pulsing it, I don't go too far back or too far down. So, I don't really have any issues with the head. But speaking of the head, his head can go up about that much and down about not much at all. That's as far as down as it goes. And I guess that's down enough because, well, he's looking straight. You're not going to have him looking down like that, which could have been good, I guess, if he had a little bit more of a neck joint. Maybe you could have worked that out, but it don't really matter because what you're gonna have him on a shelf looking down. It don't matter. But his head tilts side to side. It's a decent ball joint. See, there it went. It actually just made a little mark on my hand. That might be something to be careful about, some of the hair texture on it. It did scrape my skin a little bit, so maybe be careful with it. Didn't really hurt, though. Arm articulation. Arms go about that much. Looks like he's about to do the Donkey Kong move from Super Smash Brothers. This actually, when I was posing this guy, I was actually doing a bunch of Super Smash Brothers Donkey Kong poses, like that super punch he does with he circles this thing like moves and stuff. So, it's something to be funny, I guess. So his arms go all the way around. They go out about that much. Elbow joint goes in about that much, not too much, but just enough. It also rotates, and his hands are on a ball joint. His torso, upper torso that is, can go back about that much, and can go in about that much, and can tilt about that much. It's a nice ball joint. Legs go out about that much. They go forward about that much. And they go back about that much. Make sure the knee's not bent. Alright. And the knee bends about that much. And it rotates. And the feet are on ball joints. So that's great. So we'll get into the accessories real quick. And there goes Kong. He has these two pairs of. He has one pair of He has one pair of fisted hands, so you can easily pop these open hands out. I do it off screen because it's a lot easier. You gotta get a hold on the arm to do it a lot better. It's not really hard to do, it's just easier to do it off camera. There we go. So there he is with his fisted hands, ready to punch a T-Rex in the nose. He's gonna bump him in the nose. Bad T-Rex. That ain't gonna work out. You don't quit your crap, I'm gonna have to break your jaws and rip your tongue out. And the hand is just not wanting to stay in there for some reason. Okay. Come on, hand. Don't show issue here. Come on. It's just not wanting to pop on for some odd reason. There we go. It's in now. Alright, there we go. It's in now. Alright. So he's ready to maybe punch Godzilla in the face. I don't know. I did get him for Godzilla because I don't have a good T-Rex for him to go up against. Maybe he's ready to go fisticuffs with Godzilla. He's ready to go, man. He's ready for Godzilla vs. Kong next year. Is that next year? Some people's been saying I know it moved from 2021 to 2020, but someone recently told me it went back to 21. If that's correct, let me know. But I haven't heard anybody else say it went back to 21. As far as I know, King Kong and Godzilla are going back on this big screen to fight in 2020. And that's what I'm expecting. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section below, because I'm curious on that. The only other hand he has, we're going to have to take this hand. Now it didn't want to come out. Is his gripping hand. And there's only one thing he's got that'll hold something. Now, I mean, there's a few things he could hold. You know, if you got like a tree bark or something of that nature or something, whatever, you can have him hold. That's fine. But the thing he comes with that he can hold is little bitty Ann Darrell here. And I believe that's her name from the movie. I can't remember. But I believe it is. I know her name is Ann. At least in the Peter Jackson movie, her name is Ann. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. But I'm sure that this movie, or this figure, is more based on the original King Kong movie. So, you know, I don't remember her name in the movie was Ann Darrell. I know the actress was Fay Ray in the movie, but I don't remember her name in the movie. I believe it was Ann Darrell. If I'm wrong, let me know. Like I said, if I'm wrong about anything, you guys are free to correct me in the comment section below. I don't mind. But I am a big fan of King Kong, so I believe I know. I believe I'm correct. But if I'm not, I'm not. I don't care. But, you know, she's kind of got a pose for... she's scared. Don't hurt me. Sort of look. Her sculpt's actually pretty good for how big she is. How small she is, to be honest. But, you know, she fits in his hand pretty well. She sculpted well. I mean, there's a little bit of skin tone paint that's kind of mixed in with her white dress, and that's a little bit weird. But, you know, the sculpt's cool because the dress looks a little bit ripped. She's missing a white shoe on her foot. So that's cool. And she's even got some paint in her face with a red in her mouth and black in her eyes. They didn't have to put that much detail on a little bitty character like this, but they did, and that's great. One more, a couple more things, but this is hard to do. That is the chain, the little, the shackles he comes with. When you now they're easy to unclamp when he's not wearing them. But when he is wearing them, I have to use a knife or something to unwedge it. Because I just cannot undo it for some reason. But, you know, this is what he looks like with his chains on. With his shackles on. It looks good. I probably will never pose him with these on. But he looks okay. Now, the packaging says that they're real chains. And they feel like it. They feel like real chains. I've heard some people say that they're not real chains, but I believe that they are. Now, I'm going to have to cut well, I don't have to cut. I'll have to cut to take these off because I can't do them on camera. I'm not going to pull my knife out on camera and wedge these out. But we're going to go ahead and get the last thing done, which is his open mouth head sculpt. Which is just mean looking. You see that? just take it out real quick to get a good look at the head sculpt. Look at that mouth. His mouth's painted with like a glossy tongue. It looks wet and goopy. Look at the inside. It's just, ugh. The sharp teeth, they're not really, they're a little pointy, but they're really flexible. But, you know, the eyes look great. The sculpt is just amazing. Wow. And I didn't mention this before, but he's got a little scar close to his eye. You can see a little bit better here. There's a little bit of a scar right there near his eye. But, you know, get a good comparison of both the heads. Looks great. You got the little ball joint holes for him. Alright, so just to get a little bit of what the back and all looks like before we cut to getting these chains off and comparing him to some other figures in my collection. Also, I guess real quick, let me get his neutral head on. Going from as tall as he can get, as tall as I can pose him standing. His size is about 7 inches tall. Pretty much all the way to the tip of there. Maybe a little bit bigger than 7 inches. So, perfect for your NECA Godzillas or your SH Monster Arts Godzillas. Some people say it doesn't fit because of the head size. Well, they're not saying because of the head size, but that's the reason why I'm giving it. Why some of the NECA Godzillas won't fit with this guy, but for the most part, it does for me. And I don't care what other people say. If it works for me, it works for me. So we're going to cut to getting these things off and compare them to a few things in my collection. Alright, so this is me comparing Kong to the only T-Rex I could find in my collection. This was in a little toy bin I had as a kid I used to play with a lot. And, you know, I guess for some reason over the years, this is the T-Rex I chose to keep. None of my Jurassic Park T-Rexes. Oh no, I keep this red Gorosaurus looking rubber T-Rex that has no movement. No, I keep this one. Not my awesome roaring Jurassic Park T-Rexes. Not my ginormous T-Rexes. No, this is the only one I decided to keep as a kid. Why? Don't ask me, I have no clue. But what's really interesting, this thing had a button. And this button had like a Godzilla roar. Obviously, you could tell I ripped it out. I have that little voice box on my Godzilla shelf. And whenever I decide, I just press that button and have my Godzillas all roar. I am a nerd. I am stupid. But, yeah, it definitely does not look good with this King Kong. Or maybe it does. If you like it, you like it. I don't really care. I would prefer to have a more better looking T-Rex to go along with this King Kong if I am to pose him with one. And I guess they do go toe to toe together, alright. And since he's a cheapy rubber thing, you can easily get Kong to be able to, you know, get his hands in there and do that jaw ripping action. You know, I'm a kid at heart, so I like to play with my toys. Alright, getting this cheap thing out of the way. Another thing I want to compare it to, since we're getting a NECA King Kong vs. Godzilla, which I'm hoping we will get a King Kong of that movie. If we don't, I'll be very disappointed. That's from either NECA or SH Monster Arts. I want to see that King Kong of 62, The one he fought, the version that fought Godzilla. I want that as a super articulated figure, not no crappy Bandai figure. I want a not super articulated, but an articulated, a good one of that figure. Hoping it's by NECA, but most likely not. But if NECA is going to be doing the Godzilla vs. Kong figures, like they're doing the Kong versus, or the Godzilla King of the Monsters movie figures, which I'm so excited to get the Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah figures from them. Woo! Super articulated versions of those figures are going to be great. But I'm hoping they will eventually do the Kong version of that series. And if they do Kong, maybe they can do the King Kong from that King Kong vs. Godzilla movie to go on with that 62 Godzilla that we're getting from NECA pretty soon. And you'll definitely know that I'll be doing a review of that. But the point I'm getting at is, I have a little squid figure that my nephew let me borrow. It's just a simple squid. And, in Kong Skull Island, he fought something similar to this. But in King Kong vs. Godzilla, is one of the most memorable scenes in that movie is there is a real octopus. This is a squid, okay? But in the movie, it was an octopus. And it was a real octopus in the movie. And I believe the director of that movie, or was it the director, or was it the prop maker or something? There was a rumor going around that the guy actually ate the octopus. Wow. That movie is one of my favorite movies as a kid. But I remember that scene where the octopus is on the land, and it was a real octopus. It was sweat looking, and it was moving around. Like, Dad, it's cool looking. When I found out it was real as a kid, I was like, awesome. Obviously, the one that Kong fought was rubber, but this reminds me of that thing. And it actually is, the way this thing is sculpted, it's sculpted for a Kong to fight. It's not, but it seems like it is, because, you can easily pose this thing with Kong. And I just wanted to talk about that, because I just thought it was cool. As soon as I got this guy, I knew I had to put him against this thing. It's not really, no, it's not an octopus like in the movie. It's the squid, but does it really matter? It's as close as I could get, okay? But it looks good. You can have him fight a Titanic squid. And that's cool. But you're not here for that. Back to the Playmates figures I was talking about. This is the Playmates Kong that I have in my collection that survived. There's a couple, but they're not in good condition enough to where I want to show them off. But we have this one. And I bought this on eBay on my junior year of high school. I bought this guy because I wanted a King Kong to go along like NECA Godzilla's. This is the best option to get. And I probably will never get to talk about this guy again. But, he was the most articulated Kong that I could get at a cheap price without paying a buttload of money for the SH Monster Arts version of this guy, which I was not going to do. But he's got decent articulation. He doesn't have a swivel in the elbow joint, so when he does the movement, he can't really do much. But at least with this guy, he can at least do a somewhat chest being pose. That's the only thing I can say is better about this guy. But there is no competition. There is no competition. This guy is definitely better. This is probably the best King Kong figure you're gonna get. In all honesty, in my opinion, it's probably the best one you're gonna get. Comparing it to the SH Monster Arts, it may not have the most articulation, but in sculpt, it definitely looks great. This is probably the best sculpted King Kong figure with this most articulation. And that's just my opinion. If you don't agree, that's fine. But I definitely like this. I also have the giant King Kong figure from Kong Skull Island. That big, giant one. I'm not going to show that one off because that is way too big to fit on camera. You thought that the Worm Freddy was too big to fit on camera? That thing, no. I would have to use a brand. I would have to go way back to do something like that, and that's just something I'm not going to do for just for a comparison. But we're in the main thing I wanted to compare this guy with is the Godzillas. I picked 2 Godzillas for my collection. My NECA Godzilla collection. I have all of them except for the video game one, the GMK Fire Effect Godzilla, and I don't have the Shin Godzilla Fire Effect or the beam energy beam version of those. I also don't have the giant version of the 2014 Godzilla, and I'm not going to be getting the poster 54 Godzilla. If it's a repaint, I'm just not going to do it. The only repainted version of these Godzilla I've gotten was the Burning Godzilla. And that's just because, it's a different version of that Godzilla. It's not the same thing, and I actually like that design. But if you want to go for more of a campy look to go on with this Kong, the best way I would say is go with the 54 Godzilla, the first appearance Godzilla figure. It may not be as big as I would like it to be compared to this Kong, but maybe when the 1962 Godzilla comes out, it might be a little bit better to go along with him, but as of right now, this is the best campy Godzilla I could say would go well with him. And they look good together, I would say. I'm not going to complain. I like them. They look like they could fight. What do you think? I agree. I think they would look good together. But if you want to go for a more modern design, I would say the closest modern look Godzilla you can get that would look good with this Kong is the GMK. The reason why is because the 90s Godzilla's head is so small that I don't like comparing it to this Kong. And it might be alright to some, and it's not going to stop me from posing it with it eventually, but I just like these 2 Godzilla figures. These 2 Godzilla figures look the best, in my opinion, until the 1962 Godzilla comes out to prove me otherwise. I think these are the best NECA Godzillas that you can compare to this Mezco. And if you're wondering, well, why aren't you posing him with any SH Monster Arts? I don't collect them. They're too expensive. That's why I get these guys. And you're sitting there on your little computer sitting there talking, well, you're buying these 112 collectibles that cost up to about $90 to $80, almost $100 a piece. Yeah, well, that's why I can't buy SH Monster Arts, because I'm buying Mezco. So, let's just get these guys out of here before I keep talking about Godzilla. This is Kong's review. So, what is my final verdict on Kong? He is probably the best King Kong figure you're going to get, unless NECA decides they're going to do a Kong figure down the road. Even then, I still think this guy's going to be the best. And they're even making a bigger version of this guy. There's 3 versions. There's this one, there's the smaller one, which is this one. There's the black and white variant of this guy that comes with a Kong skull and a little bone thing. I think that's a few dollars extra though, but it's a black and white movie variant that looks like it's from the old Kong movie, the original, which is cool, but I'm not getting it because I don't buy repaints. And there's going to be a bigger version of this guy with new parts. And I might consider getting that. I might. But we'll see. If I do, I do. But I probably won't. It's probably going to be the same figure, just upscaled. So I'm going to give King Kong of Skull Island by Mezco Toys a 9 out of 10. This figure blew it out of the park for me. Out of the 3 figures I've gotten for around the Christmas holiday, this is probably the best one. Or at least, maybe not the best one, but this is the second best. Alright guys, I think I've rambled enough as it is. I'll see you all in the next